Hi guys, we have Parth with us. Parth is currently the student of IIM Rohtak, and he is doing his MBA from there. He has also done his BBA from IIM Rohtak, and recently he has won a case competition. We would request Parth to give up to introduce himself and tell us about his background in academics.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nihal. It's a pleasure being here with you. I think we are someone we've worked very closely, even in the executive alumni terms. So it's glad that we are having this conversation right now. So just to give a brief background about myself, as Nihal said, I'm someone who right after his 12th gave this exam called IPMAT. I was fortunate to get into IIM Rohtak in my first attempt, and to be frank, I had a very soft undergraduation. I wasn't sure about what I was getting into. When I got into BBA, I wasn't very sure about what I was doing. But I think things took a little bit of change for me when I joined my MBA. So MBA was a very different ball game altogether. Uh, Even in the first week, you had quizzes, assignment, everything just bombards you. And yeah, so that's a little about what I've been through prior to my MBA.
So, how did you first hear about the case competition and what motivated you to participate?
Okay, so case competitions was something I had an idea even before joining my MBA. I was little aware about them in my undergraduations because we have a couple of colleges who conduct these competitions for at an undergraduate level as well. But in MBA things are a little different. The competitions get more competitive. You have more participations in there. The problem statements are a little more complex to handle. So how it started for me, I just randomly applied for this competition from XLRI. It was called Fulcrum. It was a core marketing competition. We had like 1,000 registrations there. So there were two other teammates that I had. They were Nishant and Mehul. So I think that was the first breakthrough for us because we were able to get through the quiz round. We submitted the case. We were in the finals, and we came up as national runners up. So I think I was lucky in that sense that we had a first breakthrough pretty early, because once you get that first breakthrough in the case competitions, you get the motivation to do more. You get that hunger. Okay, can I pull up bigger corporate competitions? Can I do more such stuff? So that's where my first idea of case competition that's how my first idea of case competition originated. And one thing I'm going to make clear is that I don't think with MBA students awareness for case competition is an issue, because as you get through, everyone is floating these competitions. Some of them are winning it, some of them are making it to the quiz round. There's a lot of buzz around these competitions, but especially in our context where I come from a tier 2 premium colleges. So that awareness, that buzz is there, but direction is missing. How to do them? What are the specific strategies? What are the specific skills required for these competitions? This is something I have developed throughout applying for number of competitions. So awareness is not an issue per se, but that direction is somehow missing.
Okay, okay. So, could you describe the case you worked on during the competition?
Yeah, before we get to that, I think even though awareness and buzz is there, one aspect that I want to briefly touch upon is the value proposition for these case competitions, because I still think that not everyone is on the same page when it comes to talking about what these case competitions offer. So if I have to break this down, I think there are three layers at which you can look at any case competition, especially corporate case competitions. Three layers of value proposition. The first has to be something that everyone is aware of. That is the PPIs, the monetary rewards that are on the table. At the end of the day, everyone comes to a B school for a placement, and through these case competitions, you can grab a placement opportunity. That's there. The second layer um, is what I call social currency. As in, when you win these competitions, there's certainly a level of societal acknowledgement, societal validation that you had to. Your peers talk to you about competition, your juniors talk to you. Again, the very reason we are having this conversation right now is because I have something credible that I've done in the past. So there's certainly an element of that as well. But the third layer, which is probably the most important layer, and I think that has to be the biggest value proposition, is the entire learning experience that you have once you apply for this. Be it the quizzes, be it the case presentations, be it going to another city to present yourself, be it the feeling of representing your college, be it learning from your peers, because there's so many good players out there in other colleges. I remember when we were in Bangalore presenting our solutions, we had teams from FMS, we had teams from IM Calcutta, and at one point in time, even I was looking up to them. Okay, this is how you present it. This is the level of confidence that these guys have. So you're not in that bubble actually where you're always thinking that you are the best. You understand that there are people out there who are just as good as you are. They're probably doing better, and you need to catch up. So that learning experience in itself is probably the biggest value proposition for me.
Okay, okay. So again, coming back to the question that can you tell us the name of the competition that you took
Yeah,
part and won at the national level?
yeah. So there are few of them. The first one I already talked about. That was the first major competition. It was Fulcrum. It was a marketing competition organized by XLRA. The next one, there were a lot of competitions in between where we didn't made it, but we still tried. But the major hit for me was the MI Summit 5.0. It was the Xiaomi's legacy case competitions that was organized. We had more than 17,000 teams registering for this competition. So the structure of it was again not marketing per se. It's a mixture of marketing and strategy. So the way this competition was structured, initially we had a quiz. So we got through the quiz, and then we had a campus round where top 10 teams from each campus presented, and then we have zonal rounds where people the one team from each campus was selected, and then those teams were divided into different zones: north, south, east, west. And then we had this sort of zonal semi-finals where we presented ourselves, and one team from one or two teams, I guess, from each zone was selected to the national finals. And then that national final, of course, happened in Bangalore, where we went ahead and we were lucky enough to be the national runners up. So that was the structure of competition.
Can you just tell us more um, about the case competition? That what was it about?
Yeah. So coming to the case problem, the problem that we had, it was very simple. It was, how do you increase the market share of Xiaomi's TWS segment? So TWS are, of course, wireless earphones that we use, one that I'm using right now to talk to you. So that was the case problem that we had at hand, and we were able to come up with not just marketing but also solutions on a product portfolio level. So um, I think it would be better if I could just run you through my deck so that I'm able to better explain how we went about.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah, so let me just share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's
I'll just go full screen. Right, so this, of course, the introductory slide. uh, then this is gratitude, simple stuff. So the first idea we had was to understand the industry diligently. The problem is that a lot of people skip the industry analysis part, uh, because I think a lot of times they're just lazy about it. But it is very important to understand the industry diligently, because you get a lot of initial solutioning from the industry analysis itself. In this example, we understood that Xiaomi was doing great um in the under 2K segment, because they have this lean portfolio philosophy in the earphones. But they were really struggling in the 2K to 5K segments. But when we looked at the industry, the competitors were offering as much as 20, 30 offerings in that offering, and Xiaomi had zero offerings. So that's the first idea that we had, that there is a fault at a product portfolio level. So this is how we get to one solution just by the industry analysis itself. So it's a very important stage. Now, second was understanding the consumer. So when we talk about marketing, at the end of the day, marketing is about understanding consumer. So that's the idea that we had, to understand the consumer diligently, and that's where we did a very solid primary research. And I think a lot of teams do primary research, but what a lot of times these teams, they just paste the data points that they have in the Google form results, and they just paste it. There's no analysis being done. So that's the thing that we did a little differently. We not only just looked at the data. In the next slide you could see we did proper statistical analysis. I think one of the graph is not visible here for some reason, but we did proper statistical analysis to understand what are the what are the specific features that consumers are looking for in different price segments, so that we can tailor made our recommendations accordingly. And a lot of these times you have logical solutions in your head, but you need some rationale to back that up. You need some data support, and that's what primary research can help you to do. It can help you to get proper rationale behind your answers. Okay, this is what I am saying, and this is why I am saying, because they're very particular about rationale. And when you say things like three-way ANOVA, two-way, one-way ANOVA, proper statistical analysis, understanding of 140 plus customers, these are things that put weight to your that give weight to your argument. Because the way I see it, uh, I think Nihal, you are at the end of the day, you worked in sales as well. Every touch point, every interaction that we have uh, with the with the with the judges, we are trying to sell ourselves, and all of this help to sell ourselves better. So that's how I see
Okay.
it. Yeah. So then, on the basis of our primary research, we told them to introduce two new offerings to their product portfolio, and we also gave them names so that they sound more cool. So we also gave them what are the potential social media collaborations, because we found out in a primary research that in uh, their consumer purchase journey, they were heavily influenced by social media collaborations. And we also provided them MVPs, which is called a minimum viable product. So all of this add weight to your argument, add substance to it. It tells that okay, you have done proper homework while before coming to them. So these are the two products that we offered. And if you could see, the first product was uh, named Redmi Rhythm. It was offered in the Redmi sub brand because it is more affordable. The next one is Mi Vigor, which is a more premium brand. So we are also looking at what are the current brand offerings that they have, and then giving them recommendations. So it's very specific. Now, before I get to the next slide, important one important learning that I had in these competitions is that the first step to approach any competition should to approach any kind of solution should be to have an understanding of what the company is already doing. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of things they are already doing. So you don't have to give ground zero solutions. You have to understand what are their current scheme of things, current manner of working, and then build on those solutions. So provide complementary solutions rather than ground zero solutions, because then again, there's no point telling them, okay, you could do this, you could launch this product, but the company already has that product. So what's the point of you telling them that? So that's the one of the big learnings that I had, not just in this but other competitions as well. This is the overarching strategy that we presented. So you can see it's very in depth, it's very specific, and to an extent it's creative as well. If
Yeah.
I have to summarize this, the first idea was to, of course, launch new portfolio offerings, but the second idea was also how do you promote them? How do you build enough media attention around those offerings as well? So that's a comprehensive strategy that we had. And then we had some content regarding to what they can do in terms of ESG, and how can again, this is a beautiful example of that. Here we are suggesting to increase their customer engagement through Mi Music app that is already existing in the ecosystem, that is already being used by the customer. So how can you leverage that app? What more can you add there? So that's the idea. Don't build ground zero solutions. Think in terms of what can be very cost effective, what can be very basic, very simple, and execute it. Execution is something that you need to give proper thought.
Okay.
Again, this is This is one of my favorite slides in this entire competition, and this is where we actually, the case problem also, I think I told you, I've given this, that they talked about how do we get the TWS to a 15% market share. They're close to 7% market share at that point in time. So we gave them a proper revenue trajectory through estimated revenues. Okay, this is how we can get to the 18 or 15% market share. We had, of course, underlying assumptions and rationale to back that up, but again, the idea is to give them numbers, to give them proper logical assumptions and rationale to get to figures. And I just want to quickly break down this slide as well. How do we get to these numbers, get to these revenue figures? Because at the end of the day, you can't just make up things. So if we talk about revenue, if we talk about market share, uh, in market share, you don't have to look at profitability. You have to just look at two things: selling price and units sold. So for selling price, how do we get to the selling price of each of the offerings that we were suggesting? So we do use this concept called competitive pricing strategy. So we took the uh, we took the prices in that segment of all the competitions and slacked them by around 20 or 15%, because that's what Xiaomi generally does. The second part was to estimate number of units being sold. Now this was the tricky part. How do you even understand, okay, how many units will we sell in this much amount of time? Because these are the figures that company doesn't necessarily reveal, and we also checked on the internet, they were not available. So what we looked at, we actually went to their Twitter post. We looked at, okay, because what happens with these companies is, as soon as a Xiaomi earphone is selling 1 million units, they'll just post it. Okay, we have sold 1 million unit in 1 week. We have sold 2 million units in 2 months of launch. And that's where we draw close assumptions to, okay, if we have done this much in the past, we can probably expect this much given our social media recommendations, given our marketing recommendations. So that's how we estimated the selling price as well as units estimated. And if you multiply these figures, you will get to the final revenue as well. Uh, and this is the contingency plan. So, of course, you also need to accept that not everything you say is perfect. So, you also have to give them some contingency plan at the end. Okay, if things go wrong, we can do this. So that's the uh, broad level uh, recommendations that we made, and the line of thought that we used. And of course, I think this is not something that I have done on my own. I want to thank my teammate Pranjal as well, who was there. We were working on it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope I wasn't very, very elaborate about it.
This was one of the beautiful presentation that I have ever seen in my life. It was very elaborative, and all the things that a marketeer needs to have was present in that presentation. And definitely, this is the way how you win a case competition, especially when it is happening among the premium and the top B schools of India. So yes, well done, and congratulations once again, Parth, for winning such a prestigious competition.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Also,
Uh,
before we move ahead, there's just one important aspect I want to talk about. This is not from this competition, but another competition, which is the governance challenge by Odisha, where we did decent as well. We were in the national finals. We didn't win it, and I want to talk about why did we didn't win it, because understanding the failures is probably just as important. Um, so I'll just show you my slide. Yeah, is my screen visible?
so this is the competition where you want to discuss more that what was the reason that you people were not able to win that competition rather than.
Yeah, we went into the national finals, yeah,
Yes.
but we didn't win it, and I'll tell you exactly why. So this is the competition where we were. Now this is not a corporate competition. This is a government competition. It was conducted by government of Orissa, and the problem statement here was to give up solutions uh, of how can you work on the SDG 5 of women empowerment. That's a sustainable development 5 goal that government of Orissa is tackling, and they're very energetic, very excited about the school as well. So if you could see, the I think the underlying construct of underlying reason of why we didn't win this competition was the way I presented the solutions. So if you could just see this slide, I started with telling a story. My story was like, okay, on one end you have a beautiful city of Bhubaneswar that celebrates girl child, but on the other end, just 5 kilometers of from the city of Bhubaneswar lies this city called Nayagarh, which terrorizes, which kills, which maims girl child. So I think in a way it was a very powerful start to make. And then of course we had this solutioning. I don't we had conducted research here as well. We had the data points, we had solutions, everything was there. But the problem was, of course, way we presented that. And the idea is we were presenting those solutions uh, to DMs, to people who were working in the government, and to use such strong derogatory language in front of them, they were they were very not so pleased by that language that we used. They were very uh, I don't think they scolded us, but it was obvious that uh, they discarded use of such heavy language. So it's very important to understand the context of competition. You have to understand what works in a competition might not work in the other competition, because uh, as we moved, I was doing a corporate competitions before this, but as we moved to political competitions, it was a different ball game altogether. You have to understand your audience at the end of the day and then present your solutions, because I don't think at a solution level, in terms of research, our deck was not worthy. We could at least have made it to top three, but that presentation that we gave, the choice of words that we have, that was not professional, given the context.
So you have to balance it out basically. So
Yeah,
you need to know that beside what you need to present, you need also to know that what you need to speak, and
yeah,
and that and that really makes either you in or out of that game. So
yeah,
okay.
exactly. There are two things. On on one hand, you have to get your facts right, but you also have to accompany them with feelings, because feelings are something that can create a behavioral change in the judges. But what happened in that competition, वो गवर्नेंस वाला वो फीलिंग का कंपोनेंट कुछ ज्यादा ही हो गया था. So feeling
Hmm.
वो नेगेटिव हो गई थोड़ी. So you have to
Yes.
get the facts and feelings right according
Hmm.
to the context, and that's what I'm trying to repeatedly make a point about. You have to understand the context first before you
Hmm.
present
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. So, Parth, you have already shared a very detailed analysis, and you, in fact, have shared your whole deck with us. But in one of the other videos, I would also request you to share the that how a person should approach a case competition. That what are the steps that he or she needs to take, or what should be done. Means the first step, the second step, the third steps that is really going to help him or her out. Okay, so that is something for a different video. Let's keep it for a different
Yeah.
video. Yeah. Moving further, Parth, can you tell us that what are some of the key challenges your team faced during the competition and how did you overcome them?
Uh, okay. So it wasn't a very large team. It was just me and my friend Pranjal. So that's an advantage as well. When you have large team, people don't show up. People don't show up in the meetings. They don't do work properly. When you have smaller team, you have a certain level of trust. You have a certain level of accountability that comes with you, because 50% of work you have to get it done at any cost. So that's the advantage. That's the relative advantage that we had. That it was just a team of two. The second thing I want to point out about is the challenges that I have faced with regard to looking for teammate is that you don't find people who are motivated enough to do these competitions. I don't think you'll find competent people. You're talking about a premium B school. The, every other person is competent in one way or the other. Competency is not a question. The question is, are you guys really ready to put in the hard yards? Because in case comps, you have to put in hards. You have to put in the hard yards to get through. You have to put in 10, 20, 30 hours in a single competition. With for example, a competition like Xiaomi that happens over a period of 1 month, you have multiple stages to it, so you have to keep reiterating your deck. It's not that you make a version and then that's submitted and that's done. You get the feedback. I remember we got very critical feedback from the national sales head of Xiaomi. She was very critical about our deck, but again, we were very receptive to the feedback and we made changes accordingly. So the larger point that I'm trying to make is that you need to find first you need to get yourself motivated enough to get things done, and then you need to find teammates that are motivated, because a lot of other competition have struggled with this. I failed to find people who are motivated and who could match the level of energy and enthusiasm that I carried with regard to competitions.
So I think so that the case competition really begins from the day you are forming the team. You need to have the right person with you,
Yeah.
and and the bigger the team is, the more the free riders will be there.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. So
Yeah.
generally a team of two, team of three would work. Team of four, team of five, for me, I it hasn't worked. But if you could find such people, if you could find people who are motivated enough, why not?
So, what was your team's approach to solving the case, and how did you divide task and responsibility?
Okay, so the approach that we followed was very simplistic one. So our first idea was to, of course, understand the industry. The second one was to understand the consumer behavior through our primary research, and then use both these understandings to gain insights that could in turn uh, turn into our recommendation. So that's a fairly simple structure that we followed. Of course, it's not universal in nature. It might work for some competitions, it might not work for some other competitions, but the larger point is that for mainstream marketing and strategy competitions, for major league competitions, it does work out. But of course, it depends on the problem statement, it depends on the context. Yeah, just one more point I want to make here, which is a very important point, is with regard to frameworks, because in our MBA we talk so much about frameworks, and I have this opinion that frameworks are very, very overrated, especially in the case competition context, because I see what a lot of people do, what a lot of average case com decks do, is that they just forcefully fit a framework into their solutions. They just put, okay, this is the problem statement on Chat GPT, and as per this framework, what are the solutions that you can develop for us? Chat GPT won't provide you specific insights. It's not developed yet per se. It might in next 5 years, but as of now, in order to get to specific meaningful recommendations for brands, you need to get your hands dirty. And frameworks, just frameworks, don't help you in doing that. Frameworks are helpful if they're contextualized properly, if proper research is being put. And as you saw in our presentation, we didn't use a single framework, but we still managed to get through.
Yeah, yeah. So, can you share any unique insights or strategy that your team used to stand out from the competition?
um, I think I've already covered it, but I'll just summarize. The first one was okay. I'll just give three strategies that I think differentiated our team. First one was our statistical analysis. This is something that none of even the finalist team did in the final presentation. We not only did a very solid primary research, but we also supported it through proper statistical analysis. The second one was simply the breadth of things. I think sometimes team gets too much into the depth, but at the same time you need to cover a number of things. As we talked about the MI Music app, we talked about the ESG factors, so we covered a lot more things than other teammates. And third one was we had a very concrete contingency plan as well. This is something that teams don't think put enough thought into, but I think it's important. So the three key differentiating factors for us would be, of course, primary research with statistical analysis, breadth of things that we covered, and the third one would be the contingency plan that we shared.
Yeah. So data is the new oil, and here also,
Yeah,
means data came into the picture, and it really helped you out in spite
yeah,
of not
because
using any framework.
yeah, everything you have to say, you need to back it up, and that's where data comes into the picture.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, okay, you can do this, you can do this. You need to back that up with proper concrete data. And I think I'm going a little overboard, but one of the beautiful learnings that I had in this competition, there was there was a person in the competition who was the judge. He was the national he was the national no regional sales head of Xiaomi, and he gave this very beautiful insight to us. some of the teams there talked about very high level solutions. We can use AR in our marketing campaign. We can use VR in our marketing campaign. We can make use of generative AI. All of this stuff sounds good on paper, sounds uh, good to the eyes, but the problem is you have to think about real world solutions, solutions that work in the real world. Because if you go in the market, your target audience are basically tier 2, tier 3 cities, and AR, VR, AI, it won't work there. So you have to think on the ground solutions. How can you develop that? And I think that's the biggest learning that I took from Bangalore, was really to uh, get into your shoes and think about what will work on the ground, what will what will be something that's not just pleasing to the eyes, not just sounds cool on paper, but something that will actually work out, something that is executable.
I think that I also believe that means sometimes people thinks a lot and they start means in order to think out of the box now, they
Yeah.
start believing that that they have to give a solution that is more unique, more
Mhm.
complex, but which in practical can't be executed.
It holds
Yeah,
no value.
and
Yeah, so
yes,
what they're
and
doing is they're making simple things complex. Well, what you are
yes,
asked to do is make complex things simple. You are just doing the
yes.
opposite.
Yes, yes, and that is what the target audience wants. That is what the target audience wants. There are already a lot of complexity present in their life. They want the
Right.
things in a more simpler way. Yeah. Okay. So, what is your advice for the other MBA students who are interested in participating in case competitions?
Okay, I think the first advice would be to, uh, in the starting, I talked about the value proposition, was to understand this value proposition, three layers I talked about comprehensively. And the most important value proposition would be the learning experience that could in turn help you for your placement, for your SIPs, for your final placement interviews, even if you're not getting a PPI or PPO. So that learning curve is very steep compared to the academic sessions as well. Because um, I'm someone who's not best academically. I have a 5.5 SGPA, which is good enough, but not great per se. So the learning curve with this case competitions, it is huge because you're solving real world problems. You're not just thinking in terms of solutions, but also in terms of execution. So that's the advantage. So there's a lot of value in this competitions with regard to learning. The second one would be, given now that you understand that there is a great amount of learning involved, put in your efforts. So I've seen teams, and even I have myself, there were competitions where I put in 60% efforts, 65% efforts, 70% efforts. It doesn't work out. Either it's zero or 100. And I'm not saying if you give 100 you will get through, but if you don't give 100 you'll not get through. So that's the argument I'm trying to make. If you want to pursue a competition seriously, you have to first finalize, okay, this is a competition, I think I could do it, and now I will give 100%. The third and the final word, I think, I'm already taking a lot of time, but there's the final and most important advice, is that be persistent with case competitions. You have to repeatedly give 100% over the period of long time to get uh, to make a win. Because you can't expect, okay, I'll give 100% in this competition and make it, because the competition is so much intense. There's so many factors that comes into the picture, and there's a certain amount of luck involved as well. I will not deny it. We were lucky that day that we get through uh, in the finals, because the other players, the other competitors that we had, they were very good as well. It's not like they haven't put in 100% effort. So there's really a certain amount of luck in these competitions. The competition is very intense, so you have to give 100% over and over again in order to get to the winning stage, or at least the national final round. Because if you're making to the national finals, that's a victory in itself. That's still a big thing.
Yeah. So, how do you think that this case competition has shaped you or impacted your skills and knowledge in business?
So again, my first learning would be to think about execution as well, and not to just give an idea, to uh, really analytically understand a problem statement, and then think about solution, not in just in terms of, okay, we can do this, we can do that, but also in terms of how will we do that, what will be the short term strategy, what will be the long term strategy. So that's one of the biggest learning I had. And the second learning would be, how do I sell myself? Because I will say this, there's a fair amount of selling that's happening when you're presenting yourself, because a lot of times your content can be, you can have the best content on your presentation and you can still not make it. And when I talk about selling, that's not in just in terms of me speaking, but in terms of also in terms of what I put in the PPT, because you have to be very crisp, precise about what you put in the PPT and how you put it. Because um, just final insight that I had, uh, what other teams, a couple of teams, that's a mistake they made, was when they were in the final rounds, they make these PPTs that were very cluttered with content. Because in case comps, you generally do that in the initial rounds, but not in the final rounds, because final rounds is where uh, a judge is watching a presentation, and you really need to align what you're speaking to the PPT. They don't really want to put in the efforts to zoom in to find out, okay, what is this guy even speaking. You have to be very crystal clear, specific about what you put on the PPT. So those are the three major learnings I had. Just to summarize them, the first one would be thinking about execution and not just solutioning. The second one would be, it's an overarching learning, it's about selling yourself, not only in terms of speaking but also in terms of PPT making.
Okay. So thank you, Parth. Thank you for taking out the time and giving us such insights about the case competition. I think so that it's going to help many of the MBA aspirants over there who will be taking part in the case competitions, and some will really this video will really help them out to win some of the case competitions in the future. I think so. This was so elaborative, so good, that it's really going to benefit them. So thanks, Parth. Thanks a lot for taking out the time and giving us such an insights about it.
Yeah, I hope so. It will help, because the idea when I started case competition was not just to win it for PPI's for learning curve. It was also about how do you build a case competition culture at our college, which is still a tier two premium college, as I say so. So it's important to market ourselves once we have done something decent enough, so that other people take the inspiration and the baton goes on. So yeah, I hope I was able to add value, and people will participate more enthusiastically in these case competitions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you a lot for giving me this platform, Nihan. Thank you.
Yeah,